Now we're going to be welcoming Mr. Bosta Pratama. Bosta has been involved in the mineral industry since 1996. He began his career as an exploration geologist, but in 2002 he developed an interest in mine geology, resource modeling, and began to move around mine sites and roles including consulting with QG, aranzgeo, and Cube. Bosta has an avid interest in project evaluation, mining geology, resource estimation, geological modeling, like all of you guys, just statistics, multivariate statistics, data science. His commodity experience is vast and includes extensive knowledge in porphyry, copper, sediment-hosted gold, epithermal, low sulfidation, gold and silver, stratified base metals, iron ore, as well as supergene copper and nickel laterite type deposits within Australasia, North America, and some parts of Africa regions. Bosta joined Newcrest 2029, which has been recently acquired by and become Newmont. Bosta, welcome.
Morning all. Thanks for the invitation from Datamine. I'm glad that I can share a bit of the work that we've been done in the Asia Pacific region. So the topics for this morning is a pretty popular topic in the industry that's being applied for the last decade or so, and I don't think this is a very unique topics, and I bet the majority of people in this room to some extent been involved or also did a similar thing in their project. A major company, it's boring stuff, but I have to show this to you all. And yeah, it's just a background that Newmont portfolio is contained of more than half of world gold mines in the world, and our asset is spread over different continents: Africa, Australia, Latin America, Caribbean, North America, and Papua New Guinea. And over the course of the year, we will divesting 6 assets. As you all aware, I believe last week it's being announced that Telfer and Havron is being the deal with Greatland Gold, so it will be moved to Greatland Gold hopefully in the next month or so. So we still have another 5 left on our book, and the plan is that it will be all handed over by the end of this year. Just for your background, the overall to date, the total gold reserve is for the total company is about 128 million ounces of gold and about 14 million ton of copper. And on the top of the reserve, we also comprise of 155 million ounces of gold for resource and about 26 million ton of copper. And because we are listed in New York Stock Exchange and we're reporting under SK 1300, resource is not really a big deal there. It's all about reserve. Yeah, just because the majority of people in this room is a geologist, this is a very, very interesting topic for us here. As you can see, Papua New Guinea is a very fertile zone for mining, especially in copper and gold, and it hosts several large deposits including Panguna, Wafi-Golpu, Porgera, Octedi, and interestingly, Grasberg is just a few kilometers west of Octedi. It's very, very close. And Lihir is actually located at the northeast of Papua New Guinea as part of the broader Bismarck Archipelago. And the Bismarck Archipelago includes the island of New Britain, New Ireland, Bougainville, and the Solomons. Lihir is part of the 4 volcanic island group that form a chain parallel to the New Ireland coast. It's called the Tabar to Feni chains, the one on the right side. The Tabar to Feni chain are volcanic, of largely Pliocene age to recent, and lie along a north-northeast trending submarine ridge. The island chain has varied but predominantly alkali composition. That's why it's pretty high in gold. The unique alkali composition is interpreted to be the result from the subduction of the Ontong Java Plateau, resulting in oxidized volatile rich magmatism. The Ladolam deposit, or Lihir, is the largest island in the Lihir group, hence is commonly called Lihir. As you can see, the the smaller, not triangle, the square on the left is actually Simberi, another mine that owned now by and owned and operate and mined by San Barbara. So Lihir deposit is considered to be a spectacular epithermal gold deposit. The island is part of the 155-mile or about 250 kilometers long northwest trending alkalic volcanic island chain that sits within the area where the several microplates, including Solomon Sea Plate, South Bismarck Plate, and North Bismarck Plate, developed between the converging of Australian and South Pacific plates. Lihir Island comprises of two Pleistocene volcanic blocks, Londofit Block and Wurtol Wedge. So we talk about the local geology and very interesting evolution of the deposit itself. And just imagine that the Lihir Island is actually formed by 5 volcanoes, right? There are 5 volcanoes. And then this 5 volcanoes is all slump seaward, resulting in the presence of day topography. Those 2 pictures at the bottom is just like a cartoon or just the imagination of the initial volcano and then the slump afterward. So the bottom on the right or the bottom middle one is the current, not really the current, the topography of Lihir. It's kind of like caldera, we call it amphitheater, prior to the mining. So the Ladolam or Lihir deposit is located within the youngest volcano, we call it Louis. And Louis is located in the eastern side of the island. So, and the age is only about 1 million years old. And the mineralization itself is dated around 150 to 900,000 years. The Louis amphitheater or the caldera is approximately about 3.5 kilometers in diameter and almost 600 meters high. And it's interpreted to have formed as a result of sectoral collapse, the slump of a large volcanic edifice. So during that time, the mineralization itself is actually happened because of the deep-seated intrusive start to alter the rock and form the volcanic cone, and then close to the intrusive before the slump, the brecciation is developed, obviously within the caldera, or some geologists or some consultants also call it a breccia complex or Mardeatran breccia. At the bottom part of the deposit, where porphyry is still observed, a potassic alteration that include biotite and hydride magnetite alteration, and with the pyrite and tellurite is also observed within the mapping and the core. Now we will move to the resource and the reserve of Lihir itself. So as per December 2023, as per report that we currently, Lihir is currently comprised of about 17.5 million ounces of reserve, and is about roughly around 2.5 million ounces of indicated of gold and about 7.5 million ounces of inferred. So the Lihir itself is located in a town that's called Londofit, and the location of the island is around 560 miles or about 900 kilometers northeast of Port Moresby, the capital of Papua New Guinea. The access to the island is through the local airport that located about 7 kilometers from the mine. Newcrest acquired Lihir mine from LGL in 2010, and Newmont obtained 100% of ownership of Lihir when Newmont acquired Newcrest last year. Operation at Lihir is conducted using a fleet of 7 shuttles, so Terex ONH 200 and 49 haul trucks of Caterpillar 785, with a payload ranging from 85 to 135 tons. The process plant at Lihir consists of crushing and grinding, followed by partial flotation, pressurized oxidation, and the recovery gold is washed from oxidized slurry using conventional cyanide. as December, since production is initially commenced in 1994, to today, Lihir already produced around more or less, between 17 to 19 million ounces respectively. So that is the background, and this is the topic that actually is pretty related with the study that I've taken here. Is about classification, and in general, the classification is relatively subjective task. Even in the job, it's not really described how to define the classification. So it's very subjective, according to the CPQP that responsible to sign the report. And the various international reporting code like JOG, CIM, and so on provide the competent person and practitioner with a little specific guidance on the standard work and the level of uncertainty required to classify resources into measured and indicated. So the usage of the confidence interval over a time or a period of time of production is not really new. The concept is being around since the late 1990s to the early 2000s, mostly initiated by Harry Parker. And back then, MRDI, the company that Harry founded, found that the base and precious metal deposit is a good approach to see the confidence of tonnage grade and metal content over a prediction of time, annual for example, and a 15% variance or 15% uncertainty at 90% confidence is adequate to define the indicated mineral resources. In addition, MRDI has often found that the annual cash flow projection can accommodate a 15% drop in tonnage grade or metal content without severely affecting the project viability. Many projects are designed and operated in such a way that a 15% shortfall can be made up by rescheduling the production. More severe shortfall, however, are difficult to overcome. And finally, the planning horizon for feasibility study is generally based on annual increment. And again, a plus minus 15% error level is often applied to capital and operating costs when conducting a feasibility study. Hence, a balanced approach requires a similar degree of confidence in mineral resources and reserve. And lastly, a measured resources require a higher degree of confidence. Again, a plus minus 15% has been proposed by Harry Parker at 90% confidence over a shorter time period, like monthly or quarterly production increment. So, when we have an operating mine like Lihir, it's pretty easy, right, to define, to figure out, okay, we already know, what the tonnage, what the production yearly, quarterly, over the next 20, 30 years. However, it will be challenges if you face with a new project or early project, so which production figure that you need to use to be a proxy, what number of fleet, what the SMU, and so on and so forth. So, in general, the concept has been relatively accepted within the industry and has been implemented within Newmont as part of the mineral resource estimate update for the last decade or so. Based on this, drill hole spacing study have been used for many years to define the confidence interval for resource classification. And it's not only Newmont, but I believe other major companies already use this approach for many, many years. And the two most common method that being utilized to assessing the confidence interval for classification is mostly two things. The first one is the usage of estimation variance or extension variance approach, which is simple. As long as you have the data, you have the kriging, and then you just run in. And then it simply works by working of the volume variance based on the Krig variance relationship. The second one is conditional simulation, which is used for this study. This conditional simulation is more applicable for more complex situations, like Lihir, with multiple geological uncertainty, like Lihir, within the spatial complex location, like Lihir. And with the current available technology, the conditional simulation work is relatively not really complicated and considerably fast. For example, I run the whole project here is using my laptop there, just this kind of laptop, and then it only taken half of my hard drive. It's not more than 300 gig of my hard drive for the whole project from the beginning to the end. I'm not really adopting the methodology favorite topic, everything using flowchart, but I think it's useful to simplify the concept. So with the help of Geovariances, David, I developed a workflow from scratch for this three-hole spacing study. And as you can see here, the simplification process is showing here. So, of course, the first one is the domain. We have to have a domain. And the domain for Lihir is a combination of alteration and structure. Why alteration? As we discussed on the beginning about the geology of Lihir itself, Lihir is not simply like a porphyry volcano, but they're like overprinting process over time, even now, right? So alterations become the key, and there are three main alterations within Lihir. The top one is the argillic, the clay, of course, because it's like, high acid fluid just keep pumping up from the volcano. And then the second one is we call epithermal, which is in a way is a classic epithermal. When you have a cap of clay material and we have you have a fluid with a rich fluid that bring all the gold, and then it's be capped by the argillic. It will follow some sort of the horizon, right? That's the second alteration zone. We call it epithermal. And then the last one is the porphyry, which is all the typical alteration of porphyry, potassic and so on and so forth. The second step, of course, flagging, coding, and so on into drill hole, and then also compositing, exploratory data analysis, declustering, data transformation, diffusivity test, Gaussian test, and so on and so forth, photography, and so on. And then after that, we run a turning band conditional simulation with 500 band and 50 realization at the node of 5 by 5 by 6. And the question is why 5 by 5 by 6? Because we want to have enough resolution that whenever we put the virtual drilling or dummy drilling dense enough, we can migrate it or flag it to our dummy drilling pretty closely, rather than based on pretty sparse or big node. Standard validation will be we're done for the Gaussian sims, same stuff, and also validation to back transform, Gaussian variogram, histogram comparison, accuracy plot, SWOT plot, great honest plot, and so on and so forth. Now we have, after we run this for 3 different domains, we have 50 realization. So now is the selection of the realization. So I run 5 rankings. So 5, I selected 5-1, which in the perfect world, ideally you flag all the realization, okay, for the usage of later. But practically it's not really. It's not really timely wise. So we select 5, right, from the 50. So, and simply how to select the 5 is simply just rank it, right? And then we pick the percentile 5, percentile 25, percentile 50, 75, 95, and 75 and 95. So that we have 5 realization. So those 5 realization will become the source of the data that we will flag later on into our virtual drilling. This is simply an example of one of the realization at node, and the code is red is high, blue is low, simple as that. And then the other 5 is simply a selection of my 5 ranking of the data from the realization there. And then as you can see, the picture of the 5 here is a picture of, or example of one of the drill design. This is another example of the virtual drilling or a dummy drilling, right? And virtual drilling, what we try to achieve here is like all plausible drill spacing that we can get from this underlying uncertainty data. And interestingly, in Lihir, we're not drilling like a grid, but we drill like a spider, like one color with multiple holes. Why? There are a reason for that. Remember that Lihir is an island, and the deposit, 1/3 of the deposit is underwater, right? So when you drill underwater, you have a limitation that you have to use some sort of ponton, right? You can't really move ponton every 20 meters. So the most efficient way to do a drilling in Lihir is using one platform, and then you drill multiple, just like a spider, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever. So we try to mimic a similar process with this study. So in this example, it's just like different formation of the virtual drilling. As you can see from the top left is the most dense ones, the more closer spacing, and the bottom right is the most sparse. Another interesting here is also the development of virtual drilling here is not simply just put a horizon or plan and then make a regular one, but also use an original topo. So all the color there is honoring the original topo, right? So we try to mimicking the dummy drilling or the virtual drilling as close as possible to the reality. And this is amazingly, I will not call it easy, amazingly good to use Neo with a batch file and Python script to achieve this one. And it's just, we can build how many virtual drillings? 12? Yeah, so it's within less than 10 minutes, okay, with a script of less than 50 lines, roughly. So it's this very, very powerful tool, very flexible, very customizable. Now, we have our underlying data, we already have our virtual drilling. For the example before, I show you 8 different virtual drilling formation. So now we have 8 virtual drilling formation, and then for each of the formation we have 5 data sets. So from there you can realize now you have 8 multiplied by 5, right? So 40-ish. Now this is the fun part. When we have the virtual drilling, 40, right? 40 drill hole, we can call it 40 drill hole, right? What we could do, some people or some organizations simply run kriging on those each, and then look the impact on kriging variance of supergradation or kriging efficiency. Then you can define, okay, this is measured, this is indicated according to. So they use those kriging variance or supergradation as a proxy to define the confidence interval. While here, I try to test the limit of this. So from those 40 holes, 40 drill set, I rerun another simulation. Okay, so here I simply, again, I built a workflow from scratch in this that for each, so A, B, C, D, E is an example of different virtual drilling formation. P25, P5, 25, 50, something, it's just those five different data set. Each of it, standard stuff, the clustering, anamorphism. This is the interesting. We also run a support correction. Why? Because I deliberately want to run dbsim here. So rather than rerun everything back to the node 5 by 5 by 6, at least here the selective mining unit is 20 by 20 by 12. That's the SMU that fit for the equipment that we have there. So we run dbsims, of course, turning band. 100 realization. So now you have 40 drill hole. So you have 40 conditional simulation DBSIM multiplied by 100 realization. Okay, so you can see the size of the project is exponentially grew. Just okay. Again, for this DBSIM, a standard validation is completed, and now we have, say, 40 DBSIM for us to analyze. Okay, how we analyze this big data? Can this simulation tell us something? This is simply a slide that shows us one realization from a DBSIM of two different drilling formation. The top one is drilling formation or drilling configuration number 1, and the bottom one is drilling configuration number 2. Okay, and each of the 5 is just like, you know, the P5, P25, P50, P75, and P95. Now, it's not really clear maybe, but I think it's clear enough for you to see the difference between the top and the bottom, and also the difference between P5, P25, P50, P95, and P75 and P95. And then this is actually tell you a lot. It's kind of similar but also kind of different, right? So the difference is where we can get the uncertainty, the confidence interval for this from this underlying simulation. As we already discussed before, to assess the confidence interval, we need some sort of proxy that reflect the production profile over a period of time. For Lihir, it's straightforward. We have everything up to the end of the mine, so just translate all the mine planning from phase or stages into, you know, into year. And this is financial year, so we have financial year, and then bring those financial year mine planning into some sort of shape, and then just simply flag it to the 40 DBSIM that we already have before. Now, for this case, it's easy. All the shape is available. Again, it could be more challenging for early project on what is desirable production profile and how you mimicking the production profile in some sort of spatial location or a volume as a proxy for a production profile. That will be a bit challenging. Some practitioners simply just create a box or something, and then, you know, just move the box around. Some underground operation also create, you know, like a dummy stove that, you know, giving you some sort of idea of annual production or quarterly production, and then move around that also. But yeah, for Lihir, lucky I'm lucky that, you know, we have all this information ready for us to use. So once we flag all the volume or the shape that I showed you before, annual and quarterly, into DBSIM, the analysis is begin. The main tool that we were using here is a tool, the bottom left, is simply we use a box plot to give us an idea of the relative difference between different realization of different spacing relative to the mean of each simulation. Okay, so the bottom one, right, as you can see, that's the year, right, 2024, 25, and so on and so forth. And then the y-axis is just the relative difference, right? In the beginning, about classification, we keep talking about 15%. By looking these plots, actually, you can draw a line at 50%, and then you can see, right, the tight box plot is the simulation when the drill spacing is quite tight. Okay, the white box plot is when the drill spacing is a bit wide. Right? And then we can draw the line there, 15% off and 15% below, and then we can see which drill hole spacing that meet the criteria that we have an interest with. Okay, now by using this plot, Okay, actually we can start to see, okay, which drill spacing that actually acceptable, over annual or over quarterly, and so on and so forth. However, by using this box plot itself, it's kind of subjective, right? Because some year will be up, some year will be down a bit, and so on and so forth. So then we use another. So anyway, those box plots being introduced by Parker and Fairley in 2014. The second plot was introduced is within Newmont. We've been using this plot forever, and the plot is simply just showing you the average of the left side. So you taking an average. So if you have 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, you just average it into one. So then each drill hole spacing, A, B, C, D, E, F is a drill hole spacing. Okay, you can get what the likelihood of the uncertainty. So in simplicity, if we have say 20 years or 20 annual shape, and all 20 shape were given an uncertainty of plus minus 15%, the probability will be 100%. So the probability, the y-axis, is simply how many times over the period of years, if 20, 30, okay, is sit within the 15% uncertainty. Another example, if we have only 18 years, given an uncertainty within 15%, then the probability will be 90%. If we only have 10 years, that given us the uncertainty of plus minus 15%, then the probability is 50%. So this 90% probability become a proxy of 90% confidence interval, rather than look the uncertainty by year individually and make a subjective decision less. Newmont believes this is a good approach that possibly reduce the subjectivity side of the analysis. This is exactly the same, but for a quarter, so smaller period of time, smaller plot. Now, what we can see all here for the last two slides is actually all the uncertainty at zero cutoff. All the previous analyses are good and fit for the purposes. However, in the context of Lihir, the reality is that Newmont mining at the economic cutoff. Hence, a further analysis that comprised of cutoff was necessary. The analysis of the analysis that comprised of cutoff already done by using a metal content, rather than simply a tonnage of grade only. A heat map were created so we can see and analyze the probability of uncertainty of plus minus 15% of different cutoff at different spacing in more simple and easy to understand. Here we can see the example of the annual and quarterly probability or confidence interval with the color code of probability, like if you can see all the green, we call it as green. All the 90% above 90% confidence is I color it as green, and everything is just follow to yellow and red. Once we have these two slides and then the previous slide, within Newmont we run a workshop with all different stakeholders: exploration, resource development, study, and resource management, and we presented this finding to them, and then as a group we make a recommendation and agreement within the group that which drill spacing that we agreed that will be classified as indicated or measured or others, and all the program will follow the agreement of the classification accordingly. So this is not, even though the work is done by by me, but the recommendation and decision is being made by a group or different stakeholder, and also become a guidance overall within the different department, from exploration to study. Lastly, what we can learn from this work, we can see and learn that condition simulation is very useful, very robust to define the uncertainty of not only a great variable, but also could be utilized for the categorical variable like geology. And from here, the key point is the drill design, and the conclusion could be differ when you define your virtual drilling or diamond drilling. If it's spider, is it fan, is it regular? It will give you slightly different answer. So for each drilling design, you have to give a different view, and the point is, if you run the study in regular grid but then you drill it in fan, actually the study that run in regular grid is not really fit for the real work that you will do later on. That's actually that. And this is another thing, that the point 3 is that, you know, the combining the classic node simulation with the direct block simulation is very useful here, right? And within Newmont, ISATIS is just, it's not just, ISATIS is one of the packages that we use, but also we use other Python-based simulation package. And then so far, ISATIS is still way superior than the other package. And then, you know, we don't need big cloud machine, we don't need big machine, just, you know, as long as you have 64 gigabyte RAM, a terabyte hard disk, I can run the whole things less than a day once the workflow is being set up. And this is being proven by the usefulness and effectiveness of the batch file and Python scripting. And thank you to David to assisting me with this project and make it successful. Thank you.
Thanks. That was a very interesting talk. Really enjoyed that. I guess my one question is, you've looked at grade uncertainty. Is geological uncertainty something that you've considered simulating as well?
Yeah, that will be our next project. So we did a similar project for Cadia, another, and then the one in Cadia we run simultaneously the categorical. So we run kind of, you know, PGM, Gaussian / hierarchical thingy to define the porphyry shape. Yeah, it's being done. So there are 2 steps of it.
So just on that, did you find there was much inflation of the uncertainty by including the geology, or it didn't matter much?
For Cadia, it doesn't matter much. So it's case by case. And for Lihir, maybe matter. Maybe it's matter.